Hi, welcome to the Python course you will love to take. My name is Ardit. I am the founder of Python Now, a question and answer encyclopedia about Python. I'm also a teacher on Udemy, a programmer based in Germany, and this course is a hands-on course. You'll become a Python wizard. At the end of the course, you'll be able to apply for Python jobs or freelance gigs right away. Besides mastering Python, in this course, you will also have a big list of Python recipes and a solid GitHub portfolio, which you can use as you wish. Some of the topics covered in the course are computer vision, sending automated emails and SMS, generating thousands of PDF and various text reports, and scraping data from websites and analyzing, visualizing them, logging in and out from website with Selenium and performing actions on websites, creating bots and many more. So tons of fun, tons of skills. The course is for you if you know Python basics already. And if you are a professional from another industry who wants to sharpen their skills and to add Python to their skill set, this course is for you. So if you want a course that will keep you motivated and teach you actual real life skills, then you will not be disappointed. So I suggest you to start Python today with this course, and I'll see you in class. Hi, this is Ardit, your instructor. I would like to wholeheartedly welcome you to this course and wholeheartedly wish you success with Python. Now, in this lecture, I'll give you an introduction to the course and quickly mention the content the course covers and what goals you can achieve taking this course. So let's start with the content. What does the course cover? Well, the theme of the course is automation, but that's just the theme. The hidden purpose of the course is to make you a master of Python by learning to automate everything that is possible to be automated. So in this course, you will master programming and create Python programs which can do batch automation of different operations, which would normally take days to do manually. You will create programs that send SMS messages in batch, access the browser automatically, and click and get data from websites. Of course, everything via Python, so Python will do all that. And send email to hundreds of email contacts, attaching files for each email, all with a click of a button of your script. And it will be generating and converting PDF files, working with APIs, building chatbots, and many more. Everything can be automated with Python. You will even learn some of the most modern Python tools that have come out in the last few months, which take Python to a new level, really. So by the end of the course, you'll surely be a decent Python programmer that can program just anything. One thing you need to know is that the course does not cover Python basics, and this was also mentioned in the course descriptions. So I assume you know Python basics, which is variables, strings, numbers, lists, dictionaries, tuples, functions, conditionals, and loops. If you know this, you're fine, you're ready to take this course. If not, then you should take a course on Python basics first. I have a free Python basics course on my website, Python How, at this link. There are no distracting ads on the website or in the videos, so you'll focus on Python and learn the basics if you don't know already. So how do you take this course? Well, the videos are screencast videos, so I show you the screen while I code on my code editor, and each video covers one Python program. So you are supposed to write the code on your editor along with me while pausing the video as you wish. But I do encourage you to experiment with the code and not simply rewrite what I write in the video. So try to change something in the code, run it again to see how the output changes, try to improve it further, make it better than my code, and that will immensely help your learning. But don't worry, because even if you don't experiment with the code, in those videos, you'll still get a ton of exercises which will not let you just sit and watch the videos. So often I show you how to write a program on video, but then I give you an exercise after that where you write a similar program using the concepts that you learned in the previous videos. And of course, you'll be able to compare your solution with mine afterwards. If you want to create your GitHub portfolio, so GitHub, as you may know, is a cloud-based repository where you can upload your code and others can see your code and use it. So you're free to publish these programs on GitHub, but I do recommend that you change something in the programs before you upload them. That's up to you though, it's just a recommendation. If you get stuck, and you'll probably do, every programmer does, you can just do a Google search or Stack Overflow search, and that should have the answer of your problems. If not, you can also search in the Q&A forum inside the course, and if your search doesn't find anything, then feel free to ask a question in the Q&A. And you can also use our Discord server, where you'll always find a very helpful community being online 24/7, so you are completely covered in case of issues with your code. Lastly, about the tools we will use, we will talk about that in the next video, so don't miss the next video, please. I'll show you the editor that I suggest you to use for this course, even though you're free to use your favorite editor if you like, so the code will work the same. So that's an overview about the course. Let's set up the editor in the next video, and then we start coding afterwards. See you. We're going to scrape this text from this website, automated.pythonanywhere.com. So that's the current web page, is the home page, and we will be using Selenium for this. So Selenium is a Python library, a third-party Python library that is used to automate browser actions. That includes things like clicking on a link and then on the next page doing something else, such as copying some text, or perhaps you want to log in. You're going to learn that too in the next videos. So you can write a Python script to log into these websites, enter the username and password. Of course, everything is automated. Selenium and Python will do that through that Python script, and then do something else on the next web page after the login, and so on. But for this particular video, we're going to do something simple, so just scrape this text with Selenium. So, which means that we're going to get that text and load it in our Python program and maybe print it out, or you can do whatever you want then with that text. So let's go to REPL, and here you can see that I have created an empty folder for this section, so browser automation and web scraping, and then I'm going to create a new REPL in this folder using Python, and let's name it scrape simple text with Selenium. Create a REPL, and so this is our empty REPL. It's a good idea to install Selenium beforehand. Selenium, like that. Press the plus icon and wait until the installation completes. Sometimes though the installation can hang, so you'll see that these messages will not disappear. In that case, you might want to reload the browser and see here if Selenium has been installed, if it's listed here. If not, try again until it is installed. And always, you can also just import Selenium here, and when you run the script, it will install automatically. So you have these two options: use the packages menu or directly import. My installation was completed. And now, before we import Selenium and start writing the code, we need to do another configuration. But you need to do this configuration only if you created a new REPL. If you forked my REPL, which is attached in the lecture resources as a link, you don't need to do this step. So for those who created a new REPL, you can go to these three dots and go to show hidden files, and you'll see these two files. If you forked my REPL, you will not see these files when you show the hidden files. So this is only for those people, again, who created a new REPL. So you need to go to repl.nix And then you need to go in here, make a new line and add pkgs.chromium, and then again pkgs.chrome-driver. So we need these two packages to be able to scrape data with Selenium. So close that file. You can then hide those files again, so you see only those working files of your project. And now we can go ahead and import Selenium here. But what I'll do is I'll just import from Selenium the WebDriver. WebDriver is basically a tool which allows us to instruct the behavior of the web browser. So the WebDriver makes everything possible, and we have access to that WebDriver from Python through Selenium. And the first logical thing to do is to create a driver variable and use WebDriver. Actually, we don't use the WebDriver, we use the Chrome class of the WebDriver. Normally, Chrome, this class, expects the executable path of a Chrome driver which you can download and install from the web. So that's the Chrome, the driver for the Google Chrome web browser. Every web browser will have a different driver. However, here on REPL, you don't have to provide that path to an executable because it's automatically configured, which makes our programming job easier, so we don't have to go through downloads and configuration actions. So just like that. And while this is the minimum thing you can do to configure your driver, there are other things, other options that you add to your driver. So this is what I'm going to do now. I'm going to create some options using WebDriver.Chrome options. So this can be an empty class call. So we call the class, but no need to provide any arguments. So this is an instance of this. Now it's the Chrome options object. And in that options, we add arguments. These are basically flags. And these are what I was referring as the options. The first flag we want to add is disable info bars. So disable -info bars. What this will do is, on a browser, sometimes we have these bars here which display some information such as the memory is low or things like that. Now, those bars may interfere with the script taking actions on the browser. So the script may want to click somewhere, but that pop-up, that info bar, could confuse the cursor and so on. So we add that to disable them. Other options that is good to have is to add argument. The next one is start maximized. So that will start the browser as maximized. That's also a good thing because some web pages, for example, may change the content when you resize, when you make them smaller. So we want to access the maximized version of the browser. Another one is disable dev shm usage. This particular option is to avoid some issues that occur when you interact with a browser on a Linux computer, and this here on REPL is a Linux machine, so it's good to have that to avoid some particular issues. The next one is, let me be consistent here with the quotes, just for consistency. And next, no sandbox. Now, browsers for security, they use something called sandboxing. And if we want our program, our script, to have greater privileges on that particular web page that the script is going to access and scrape, we want to add this option so that sandboxing is disabled. Next, we have some experimental options which are new, and we have exclude, switches, and in a list comes enable automation. Now this option and another one that I'm going to add here. So these experimental options are options that help Selenium to avoid detection from the browser. So some browsers, web pages, they don't like scripts, so we enable our scripts to access those browsers. So the other one is not actually, it's an add argument option. It's not an experimental one. So this is disable blink features equal to automation controlled. And that's it. So these are the options. Set options to make browsing easier. Right. And then we need to provide that options variable in here. So options now has all these arguments. This variable contains all those arguments. Now, what I would prefer to do here is to just select all these, indent them with a tab, and then put them inside a function, which I would like to name getDriver. So I'm trying to keep things organized here. So this function is responsible to create a driver and return that driver. That's good. However, the driver is currently empty. It's not connected to a web page. So we want to connect it to a web page just inside the function. So driver.get. And here this gets the URL. So the URL is this web page, right? We said that we want to scrape this text, and that text is in this web page. Therefore, we provide that web page as a string in here. So it starts with HTTP and so on. Now we return the driver for this particular web page. And then I'd like to create another function. So let's name this main. And here I'm going to get the driver from getDriver. So we call that function. Therefore, this variable now holds this driver because that function returns that, so it makes sense. And with that driver, now we extract an element from that driver. So driver.find element by XPath, which is down here. Yes. And this gets the XPath as a string. What is the XPath? Well, let's find that out. So we want the XPath of this text, right? Therefore, we select somewhere over here and go to inspect element. You may need to enable your browser developer options if this inspect element options doesn't show up. So you have to maybe Google something, how to show inspect menu on your particular browser, which could be Firefox, Chrome, or Safari, etc. Anyway, so a web page is made of HTML elements. For example, this h1 element that you see here, this creates this text. H1 means the text is quite big, the font. And if I click over here, you see that the text is inside these H1 tags. So you see h1 here, slash h1 here. So these tags, HTML tags, hold this text. And if I click over this tag and I go to copy and I go to XPath, I just copied the XPath of that text. And if I paste it there, you see we're going to get this string. So that's what I copied from there. Now, let's return this element and see what it is made of, how it looks like. And therefore I'm going to print the call of the main function. So I'm calling main here, right? Print main with a print to print out that element and to run. It seems we have an error, so let's look at it. Expected string bytes or path like object, not options. So the error started in line 22 when we called the function, and it chains back to line 18 when we get the driver, which goes back to line 13 options, and that's where the root of the error is in our script. Then we have library errors here. So line 13 is this options. So it seems that options is actually a positional argument, so we have to mention its name, options equal to options. So the name of the argument and the variable, this one here. Right, so let's run again. And this is the output, so that's the element, this one. And we also have a warning, deprecation warning, which means this find element by, so this method has been deprecated, which means it's a good idea to remove it, because in later versions of Selenium it's going to be removed as a method. So we can take measures now and use what this suggests, find element. So let's do find element, which gets these two arguments, by and value. So I think without even looking at the documentation of this value, I think what they want us to do is say by XPath. So we declare that we are accessing this element using the XPath options and not other options, such as find element by tags or by class, etc. So by XPath is good, and this would be value. So yeah, that should do it. Run again. And here is a browser also. It's being accessed. We don't see anything now because this is just a simple operation. So that's the element, right? And to get the actual text, you can just do element.text here in the return and run. Yeah, here is the text. So that one in there. And this concludes this video. So you learn how to set up Selenium. It was a long one, probably because we have to configure a lot of options, but the good news is that you're going to reuse this function just as it is in future videos of this section. So I'll talk to you in the next video. See you. In the previous video we wrote this script which returns news on a given topic, and these news are in JSON format. Now in this video we're going to go deeper and understand these JSON data so that we can clean them and then we can represent them to the user in a more user-friendly format. So if you didn't follow that video, that's okay. This script is pretty simple. All we do is we import requests. So requests allows us to perform HTTP requests. So we request the content of this URL using this method. So that's an HTTP request. You can do it with Python, you can do it from your web browser. So put the URL there and it gives you the content. All the time we visit web pages, we do HTTP requests, even though we don't realize that. So that will give you an R, sort of a request object. And if you apply the JSON method from that request object, you will get a dictionary. So a dictionary is made of keys and values. This particular dictionary that you get from the news API has an articles key. So that's the same dictionary. We can view this from Python, and you see this articles key here. So by doing that, content, and then we access the key articles, that will give us the value of the articles key. The value of the articles key is this one in here. So it's a long list. Therefore, if we run this, we're going to get that list. Now, the first thing we want to do when we work with APIs is to understand for ourselves how these data are structured. And it's not easy to do that from this results here on the command line. This is just a string, is badly formatted. So what I prefer to use to understand the data for myself is to use a debugger. So if you're using a modern IDE, you have a debugger there. On REPL, there's also a debugger, so I'm going to use that debugger. If you don't know how to use your debugger in your IDE, then it's fine. You can just view the video for the next minute and see how the data are structured. If I click on the debugger here, and then I can run this, but before I run it, I want to set a breakpoint. For example, you set a breakpoint at line 6 by clicking here, and this dot shows. That means if I run the script using the run button of the debugger, what will happen is that the execution will freeze before the breakpoint. And that means here on this panel, I have access to the results of the variables in a nice format. So now the script is at this point, and therefore I can see the content variable. I can expand it. I can expand this window also. So you see that this is a dictionary format. So it has this articles key. And then you can also see the key in here. You can expand that, and the value of that key has other values. So it's a hierarchy of data. So for example, if I enter here 0, I'll get the first article. And then this is made of other keys. So you have author, you have title. So if you add title there, you get the title of that article, or the contents if you like. So that's a content, that's its value. So that's the first article, right? We have more. We have the article with index 1. So if you want to get the article with index 1, you do that. Or what you could do, I'm going to stop the debugger now. What you could do is you could store all the articles in a variable, and that will give you, so type articles is a list. You see, it's a list of different dictionaries. So if you say for article, in articles, print article title, for example, and that will give you only the titles for all the articles in the news feed. So it starts from somewhere, yeah, from here. There's one title for each line. So one title there, another there. And you can also get then the description along the title. So you can copy that and say description, run, and so you get more data. Of course, you can format this as you want. you can do like title \n to create a break line, for example. Description \n, and yeah, that should improve. Here we go. This needs to be a comma, and we have a comma here as well. Let's run again. Yeah, so now it's formatted better. Here is the title, and then comes the description. You could also add a \n before the description to split it from the title. So that's the title, the description, title, and so on. So that's about the structure of the data itself. Now let's look at the structure of the URL again. Currently this is a static URL, so I would like to have a function instead where the user can pass values for the keyword they want to search for. At this point we only search for stock market news, so we want to make that more dynamic. And one way to do that is to write a function, define getNews. And what parameters do we want to give? Well, let's say the topic. Then we have from date to date, and then we have language. I'm going to leave this English by default. And then we have more. Let me write that in the next line. It would be the API key. So you need to get the API key from the newsapi.org website. You need to go there and create an account to get the API key. For this, I'm also going to leave it as a default value, my API key, because this is not changing. The language and the API key are not really changing much, in my case at least. The colon, and let's remove those spaces. And so what I want to do now is to construct the URL. So that's the URL. I'm going to get it from there and place it here. So this is going to be an F string this time. It's F, and yeah, like that. So instead of that, I'm going to place a placeholder. There goes the topic. And from this date, instead of that static date, I want to place from date, that variable. To date. Sort by popularity, that's fine. I'm not going to move that. Language, instead of English, I'm going to put language, my parameter, and the API key is API key, that parameter. So once I've constructed the URL, then I want to apply r equal to requests.get and enter the URL there. Let me make some space in here. Requests.get URL, and then we have the content is equal to r.json. Then we get the articles in here. And then we apply the for loop. But instead of printing out these results, what I'm going to do instead is I'll have an empty list here. Let's say results is equal to an empty list, and then I say here results.append. And then I append the title and the description and the article there. But this would be an F string. So F title, and then article goes inside the placeholder, but I'll change these single quotes here to double quotes. because we have single quotes inside in here, and do the same for the other variable, and then finally return results. Yeah, let's see what errors we have. Let's run. So those are the results from this code, but I'm going to comment this out because we don't need that anymore, and also call the function. So get news, topic is space, and from date is 2022 to 27, and to date is 2022, 2 and 28. The other parameters are default parameters, so that's all we need to do and run. And so these are the results list items. So that's the list. We wrote a function which gets the news. It gets the news titles and the news descriptions and stores them in a Python list. Of course, you can store these results in an Excel file, CSV. There are videos in the course on how to work with CSV files. So that could be an exercise for you to do to improve the script even further. But you can also make a web app and show these news on that web app. So that would be another exercise if you like to build web apps. And I thank you for following. I'll talk to you later.